Our trip begins with a long drive to Colonial Williamsburg, located in the beautiful state of Virginia. This was my first time visiting Virginia and my first time seeing the Blue Ridge Mountains. With so much natural beauty to see, the 8 hours seemed to fly by in a whirl of rich green trees, quaint little towns, and rolling blue-tinged mountains. For our week's visit to Williamsburg, we will be staying at the historic estate called Moss Side Manor. Built in the 1870s, the Moss Side estate is comprised of a main residence, a secondary building at the rear, and several acres of beautiful grassland and woods. The front 2-story home includes 2 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms. Throughout the house, there are hardwood floors covered in Turkish rugs, gas fireplaces, and each room is filled with period furniture and antiques, for a truly authentic experience. At the rear of the house is a second building that was once a kitchen and living quarters for servants. Today, it is still a kitchen, but the upper floor has been converted into a dining space. This was a fantastic method to provide visitors access to a modern kitchen and dining area while still maintaining the house's original construction and historic ambiance. Now that we have toured the house, let's explore our first historic location, the battlefield at Yorktown. The Battle of Yorktown was one of the most important battles in American history. It began on September 28, 1781, and lasted until October 19th. This siege of Yorktown was the last major land battle of the American Revolutionary War, and it led to the surrender of General Cornwallis. The Americans' victory at Yorktown prompted the British government to negotiate an end to the conflict, and thus the Revolutionary War came to an end. It is a strange feeling to be able to stand in such a crucial place in your country's history, just a plain open field where almost 250 years ago a great battle took place. It looked so peaceful here with the white flag flowing in the breeze, yet right here at this spot, this place saw the turning point for the United States, and that turning point would affect not only our nation, but the rest of the world as well. After a long day, we headed back to the manor where we ate our homemade lasagna and went straight to bed, because tomorrow was another day full of plans and historic sights to see. Bright and early on day 3, we headed out for breakfast at the Terrace and Goodwin dining rooms inside the very glamorous Williamsburg Inn. The Williamsburg Inn, located near the historic district, was built in 1937 by John D. Rockefeller, Jr. Rockefeller's name is one that you will hear quite frequently in Williamsburg because he was responsible for rescuing Williamsburg from ruin and helped to rebuild this area. But we will talk more about that a little later on in the video. After breakfast, our next stop is Colonial Williamsburg, and more specifically, Bassett Hall. Built between 1753 and 1766, Bassett Hall was one of the 88 surviving buildings from the original British settlement of Williamsburg. It was purchased around 1800 by a Virginian congressman named Burwell Bassett, hence the name Bassett Hall. After Bassett Hall changed hands several times, it finally became a part-time residence for John D. Rockefeller, Jr. and his wife, Abby Aldrich Rockefeller. During the 1920s and into the 1930s, the Rockefellers had begun the long task of restoring Williamsburg thanks to the earnest requests and efforts of a reverend named Dr. W.A.R. Goodwin. They specifically acquired Bassett Hall in 1936 so they could reside in Williamsburg and oversee the progress of the decades-long restoration. Today, the home is now open to the public after the Rockefeller family bequeathed Bassett Hall to Colonial Williamsburg in 1979. The inside features a unique mix of time periods. There are 1930s amenities, early American antiques, and a collection of folk art pieces personally collected by Abby Rockefeller. As you walk through Colonial Williamsburg, you will quickly see that this is no ordinary historic site, but rather a huge living history museum. Reenactors walk through the streets, and inside many of the buildings, trades of times gone by are being demonstrated. These historic interpreters give us an insight into different aspects of daily life by working, dressing, and talking as our ancestors would have in the 1700s. This provides visitors with an immersive experience and improves our understanding of colonial daily life. Our next stop is the DeWitt Wallace Decorative Arts Museum and the Abby Aldrich Rockefeller Folk Art Museum. Interestingly, the actual building site of this museum has just as much history as the art pieces inside. Originally, this was the location of the Public Hospital of Williamsburg. Built in 1773, this was the first public facility in the United States constructed solely for the care and treatment of the mentally ill. The original building from 1773 did burn down in 1885. However, in the 80s, the 1980s that is, it was reconstructed into the building that we see today. There is a wing dedicated to the mental hospital and how those with mental disorders were treated. However, I personally did not feel it was appropriate to vlog that, and if you are disturbed by things of that nature, you might want to skip that part of the museum. The majority of the building is now used to display artwork and antiquities. It houses one of the largest collections of British ceramics outside of England, as well as the largest collection of Southern furniture in the world. There are a plethora of exhibits to explore, so no matter what your interests or hobbies might be, there is something for everyone to see and enjoy. These items encapsulate my fascination with antiques, the fact that so many everyday items had little intricate details that added just a touch of artistic expression to everyday tasks. All of these objects, from the smallest thimble to the enormous clocks and wardrobes, have this atmosphere of care and beauty that contribute to our understanding of our ancestors and how they lived. It was an absolute treat to get to see these pieces up close and appreciate the craftsmanship of these long-forgotten artisans. Furniture, paintings, jewelry, ceramics, tools, clothing, glassworks, maps and muskets, it's all here. But my personal favorite is the extensive collection of antique toys. outside, we had a little time to burn before our dinner reservations were ready, so we spent that time mingling with the locals before ending out the evening with a traditional colonial dinner at Christina Campbell's Tavern. On day 4, our biggest focus will be visiting the governor's palace. Here you will be personally taken on a tour through several rooms of the palace by an historic interpreter. You will learn all about the tumultuous history of Williamsburg and its importance to our country's history. In 1638, the settlement known as the Middle Plantation was established in what would later become Williamsburg. It served as Virginia's temporary capital on several occasions when Jamestown, the original capital, had burned down. Finally, in 1699, the Middle Plantation became the permanent capital of the colony until 1780. Around the same time the capital was relocated, the Middle Plantation was also renamed Williamsburg in honor of King William III. Williamsburg then served as the colony of Virginia's governmental, educational, and cultural hub for over 80 years. During those 80 years, the governor's palace was the official residence of the royal governor, and during the Revolutionary War, it was home to 2 founding fathers. First, Patrick Henry from 1776 to 1779, and then Thomas Jefferson from 1779 to 1780. As the Revolutionary War progressed, it became clear that Williamsburg was just too vulnerable to British attacks. So the capital was moved yet again, this time being relocated to Richmond. After the capital had moved, Williamsburg deteriorated rapidly, and much of the city, including the governor's palace, fell into disrepair. The palace's main building was destroyed by fire in 1781, and the remaining structures around the governor's palace were destroyed during the American Civil War. During the Rockefeller and Goodwin renovation of Williamsburg, this was one of the many structures that required total reconstruction. The original cellar and foundations of the building were discovered during archaeological digs, but much of the restoration owes its thanks to Thomas Jefferson. He inadvertently preserved the original interior designs by having plans of the building drawn up with the intention of renovating the palace at a later date. The renovation never took place. However, the plans remained intact and were a vital reference for the rebuilding of this grand palace in the early 1930s. After a long tour of the palace grounds, it was time for lunch at the King's Arms Tavern. Here I tried several new things, including peanut soup, which was not really my cup of tea, or soup rather. However, it was fun to try new things, as it is all part of the immersive experience here at Colonial Williamsburg. After lunch, we hiked around the countryside and back lanes of the town while visiting some of the other shops that we didn't get a chance to see the day before. Spanning over 300 acres in size, Williamsburg is so expansive that you could spend weeks here and not see everything. There are so many different crafts being displayed, farms and cattle to visit, reenactments to watch, and most importantly, history that you can learn firsthand and up close. Alas, though, we had to head back early to our manor house, much sooner than we had planned, as it started to pour with rain. Unfortunately, this was not a little rain shower, but rather a hurricane that had blown in, and the rains and wind were so strong that we ended up getting a more authentic historical experience than we had bargained for. The next day we awoke to a crisp, cool morning breeze, which was a relief after enduring the hot, humid weather of the previous days. The storm had done significant damage to the area, downed trees, shut off electricity, and blocked several roads. Now, I've lived in the country for a few years and I'm quite used to electrical outages and storms. They're not really that big of a deal. However, not only the electricity was shut off, but the water as well. So no electricity is one thing, but no water for 2 or 3 days was just not going to work. So at the end of the day, we had to pack up all of our bags and say goodbye to Moss Side Manor a little sooner than we thought. Even though everything did not go to plan and we had to come home a few days early, it was still such a cool experience, and I was so grateful to be able to spend time here. I really don't think that anything could quite compare to that experience, and I hope that one day we will be able to come back and explore more of our country's rich history at Williamsburg. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. If you want to further support me and my work, you can check out my Patreon page where you will get access to behind-the-scenes sneak peeks, exclusive content, and more. If that sounds interesting to you, you can check out my Patreon page either through the link in the description box below or at the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching.